Have you ever left a meeting and you think, I should have said something? That moment right there is where momentum is either created or quietly lost. It's how you just show up, but you're not really seen. Let's talk about that. Welcome to How to Get What You Want. This podcast is for driven women ready to claim their goals and navigate their careers with clarity and confidence. Join me as we explore real stories, tools, and strategies to help you steer your career exactly where you want to go. Let's get started on helping you get what you want. Hey, welcome. I'm so glad that you made the choice to be here today. We're going to continue our series on the R.A.I.S.E framework. We've gone through recognize and align, and now we're going to talk about insert. This is such an important aspect of R.A.I.S.E. This is about in the moment when you realize that you have unique value, that you have something you can add. It's even just not sitting back and just blending in. It's about how do you make sure that your ideas, your question, whatever value that you can create to insert is actually spoken. You actually do something. You actually make a difference. It's so important, and this is where people get stuck. They think it's nice to just stay quiet, to stay silent. But when you recognize the moment and you understand the perspective of the room or the other side, you might just stay silent. But inserting value is what provides momentum. It helps the room. And it really matters because silence here doesn't just stall you, but it can slow down the whole room. Inserting value is about momentum. It's about recognizing when you need to make a move and help it move. This is where we can really get in our own way. Because most missed opportunities don't just happen because you weren't invited or because you didn't belong in the room. There's actually research on this that's called the common knowledge effect. And what it means is that groups naturally focus on what they already know, what everybody's already talking about. And sometimes they miss unique information because it's like that groupthink that you've probably heard about. When we understand our unique value and we add it, that shifts the perspective in the room. And that can really, really help. You don't need to wait to be called on. I remember when I left Comcast, when I talked to the senior leader, he was like, I always knew that you had something to contribute. And what really made me mad about you is you stayed silent a lot. He waited until I was leaving to tell me that, but he was right. And, to be honest, it felt like everybody else interrupted one another. Everybody talked too much. And it was annoying to me. I didn't want to be one of them. So I know I stayed quiet. I just felt it wasn't just that. It was like my opinion, my ideas didn't matter in those times. I didn't have confidence in what I was going to say. So I held back. I stayed safe. And he was saying, like, your vantage point was value. You're the only one that has your vantage point. Nobody else understands the business, the role, the part of the organization. You see it from a unique seat. So it's up to you to share that. People don't live in your head. They don't understand when you want to speak. They're not always going to say, hey, Susie, the floor is yours. Go ahead. Speak your mind. Give us your ideas. Ask your question. We have to pick our moments. And sometimes there's been times I've been in meetings where I'll have this idea, I'll let somebody go first, and then the moment passes. It's okay to go back to it. It's okay to go, you know what? I know we skipped over this, but just had this thought I wanted to add. It's easy to do. I remember when I was at Comcast, we had this big meeting with Nintendo. It was such an important meeting, and I actually got invited to attend. I didn't normally get to go to those first meetings, so this was a big time opportunity. And so during the conversation, they were describing this problem, and I knew right away that we had a solution that would work, but I stayed quiet. I just figured in the moment, I was like, well, if the senior people certainly know what I'm thinking, so on our side, they would just say it. I thought I'm not supposed to be in this meeting. My opinion doesn't matter. I'm not supposed to talk. Those were all the things that were happening in my head. So after the meeting, I brought it up to my boss's boss, and he looked at me. He was really frustrated. He said, "Why didn't you bring that up? We could have closed the deal right there." He wasn't just frustrated. He was so pissed at me. It really hurt me. It made me realize that I had lost respect from people in the room. And it made me realize that being silent feels safe, but it doesn't help you. It doesn't mean that somebody else is already thinking what you're thinking. You have your unique perspective again. You have credibility. And so what I've learned to think about is not to frame how the room perceives me from my perspective, but think about how they see me. That room expected me to be a contributor. They invited me because they wanted my perspective. But in my head, I was thinking about it like I'm not worthy of being here. But that's not how I was seen. They wanted me to contribute. So staying silent isn't always the right decision. And seeing yourself outside of the way you frame yourself is so important to help you see yourself from a different lens. And that can give you confidence to go ahead and speak up. When we don't insert value, it's rarely because we have nothing to offer. It's because what we're telling ourselves, that we're not supposed to be there, that we're not supposed to say anything, that it's already passed. I don't want to interrupt. And it's how we see it again. So thinking about how do you see yourself from the outside, it helps you gain that confidence. Here's where people really overthink this. It doesn't mean that you have to have this profound idea. It doesn't mean you have to talk a ton or feel uncomfortable about it or be the loudest voice or be rude and interrupt. It means being useful. Even saying to somebody, I'm going to try to really insert some value in this meeting. I'm going to try to talk more, but can you help me? You can even say, this is hard for me. Can you help me figure this out? Inserting value can sound like this. Can I ask a clarifying question before we move on? I'm noticing a connection between these two ideas. Can we explore that? From my vantage point, here's a risk we might want to consider. Putting it out there, and even if you get shut down, don't let it shut you down. Even if somebody says, no, we've moved on from that, great. Don't let it be your last time that you try. Small contributions at the right moment, especially with intention, it makes motion, and that's influence. Even at the end of a meeting, if you tell somebody, I really loved your idea, that's creating that momentum for somebody. And influence is earned through contribution, not perfection. And you know what? The other people in the room may feel the exact same way. We always think it's just us, but they may feel the exact same way. So it's something that we really miss about leadership. Influence is far more important than what we know. But if you consistently insert value, people start to notice you. They rely on you. They depend on you. They trust your perspective. They seek your input. They associate you with forward momentum. And that's how opportunities find you. People then understand that you're looking for the good of the organization. As long as your points are a part of moving things forward, not about you, but about what's important to somebody else that's in the room or the business, because you can help things move forward. And if you stay silent, the room doesn't just move on. They move on without that insight, without your insight. That's why you're there. That's why you have a role. So the next time you find yourself waiting, pay attention to the voices you're telling yourself. Think, what's missing from this conversation? What question could I ask? What perspective do I have that others don't? Maybe just start to see that you have a different angle. We doubt ourselves before we say it, but your unique perspective could be exactly what the room needs. Not later, but in that moment. So insert it. Your future self benefits from the value you insert today because that's making people know who you are Every time you choose contribution over silence, you're teaching people how to see you, how to use you, and where to place you when opportunities show up. Silence doesn't mean you're humble. It means you're invisible. I wish I would have known this before. I wish I would have thought about that before that Nintendo meeting, about even just asking a question, even directing it to somebody senior and even saying, hey, have we thought about this solution? Can we explore that here? And if they say no, then I would have known that it wasn't something we should tap into. But if they said yes, then I could have gone. You can't suffer in silence and be successful. So I want you to really think about this week. How can you go into the next meeting, the next conversation, and especially if it's one of those meetings that you don't usually contribute, you just stay silent, try it. Ask a question, make a connection, offer a perspective. Especially if people don't normally hear from you, you'll really stand out. That's it. That's all you have to do. And you can think about it before you go in. You can think about what is important to the people in the room. What questions might I be able to answer? Make that connection early when you go in, because that makes insertion easier when you have some connective tissue, when you've already heard your voice in the room. Try it. This is so important, and I see this as such a missed opportunity. So many great leaders stay silent because they're trying to be humble. They're trying to let somebody else go. But as leaders, especially as you go up, you should be really thinking about where your voice needs to be heard and how you can insert value so that you're providing your insights, your value to others, and you're getting the room to zoom out and see something from a different view. So powerful. How are you going to do that? How are you going to raise your hand? How are you going to align yourself? So we've talked about recognize the moment. We've talked about aligning to their interests. And now we've talked about inserting value, whatever it is, being seen, not just showing up. The next one's going to talk about support. I love this part. This one's about how do you give the microphone to somebody else so that their value shines. Don't miss out. That's in the next episode. If you know somebody that needs to hear this series, share it with them. I'd love to have them join. I really think this is important. This is all about unlocking your negotiator mindset. I'm so glad you made this a priority. I'm so glad you're here. Reach out to me. I'd love to hear your stories about how you apply this. What challenges have you given yourself so that you're inserting your unique value? Remember, negotiation isn't just a skill to mindset. Until next time, I'm Susie. I'll see you then.